but I just felt like this was going to be that revenge movie, and then it ends up being this weird Stockholm syndrome. But is it still going to be that revenge movie? Drive-by movies you're watching.
Fresh releases.
My name is Blaze.
And my name is James.
And this week we're talking the Spanish film Piggy.
Piggy was a smash hit at Sundance in 2022. It's about an overweight teen who is bullied by a clique of cool girls poolside while holidaying in her village. The long walk home will change the rest of her life. Very much so. Lots of trauma. It's going to need a lot of therapy after this, especially from the bullies too. I have a lot to say about the bullies, but yes, this was a fun movie that I had no idea existed. I'm glad I watched it. Blaze, how did you find about it, and what did you think about it?
I think I remember this movie being talked about, I guess, in last year during Sundance, but then I didn't really see a ton of coverage on it after the fact, after it debuted. It's a magnet releasing picture, so surprised I didn't really see a ton about it. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. Honestly, I didn't think that this movie was going to be as good as it was. I thought it was honestly going to be on the lower end of the barrel, especially for Magnet, but I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I thought it was like a pretty twisted watch, but it had a couple things going for it. But overall, I think it was a pretty good film.
Yeah. Speaking of Magnet, it's been a while since I've seen anything by them. For a while, them Magnet's owned by Magnolia, if I'm if I'm thinking correctly, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. For a while, that's where we reviewed all our movies from way back when we hosted just a podcast. Some people call this a podcast, but I wouldn't say that. But either way, though, for a while, they were my favorite distributor. And at the top of my head, all I can think of are the VHS movies, which are, I wish Magnet still had the rights to those because Shudder's just doing okay with them after that last one, I feel like. Off topic, but yeah, with Piggy, nice welcome return from Magnet. I swear there's always like a horror smash hit at Sundance every year. This year it's Talk to Me, but they have A24 distributing it, so of course we're hearing about that one, and sadly we're not hearing about this one. There's some stuff I would have wanted to explore a little bit further within this movie, but yeah, it's a nice, interesting story. It's not your average character where you get to hear them speak a lot. Like, this character hardly has any dialogue within the movie. It's one of those roles where it's like kind of only like 15 lines total maybe, and those lines are like literally like 5 to 10 word sentences, like very short and to the point, just because that kind of plays into her character and her role. I guess things I would have liked to have seen is just like, I'm a sucker for a good old revenge story on bullies and stuff, and that's where I thought this movie was gonna go, and it doesn't really go in that direction, I guess you could say. Like, of course, like it does come back, and that is what the story kind of centers around, but would have loved to see a little twist with them towards the end of the movie before spoiling it. But yeah, it's a great movie. Like, it's got a lot of blood despite it not being too gory, I'd say, though.
Yeah, honestly, this movie, surprisingly, especially the poster of this movie, is like a super gory image, and spoiler, it's like the last image of the movie too, which is like yeah. Which is weird. I'm like, okay, that was what they chose to like market the movie, was like basically an image that only appears at the end of the film, which I don't know, I felt like that was kind of like, I wouldn't say clickbaity, but a little gimmicky. I guess they're trying to market towards a certain audience. This film definitely, before I had watched it, was giving me Raw vibes, where Raw was doing a similar thing, like advertising probably one of the most shock factor moments of that movie with the poster or the imagery that is marketing the movie. But this film, I feel like, was more well crafted than just like that one sole image lends you to believe. So I thought that overall, like, this film really captures that story that we would imagine being, like you said, a revenge movie, but it really subverts our expectations by telling you a different story. It's got a little bit of a love story going on in there, but is it a love story? It's got, you know, the bullying moments, but is this person going to get revenge, or are they going to subvert the audience's expectations and actually end up being, you know, a positive force instead of you know, falling in love with this the antagonist of this film. So it definitely had a lot going for it, which I felt like sustained the runtime. It was based on a short film, which I'm kind of curious to go maybe check out the short film that preceded this movie, just because I kind of want to see how they told the story in 15 minutes. I thought the runtime was utilized very well for how short. I think this movie's an hour and 40 minutes, but I thought the runtime was utilized very well to keep the audience entertained.
Yeah, and yeah, what I also liked is, like, I'm curious to see the short film as well, because this movie could have gone in multiple different directions. It could have gone in a very schlock direction, could have gone in a direction, like I said, that was very revenge orientated, or a development of her, you know, kind of becoming the person that she's kind of infatuated with. I guess, like, you know, I said I had some complaints, but I guess those weren't necessarily complaints. That's just me being a jerk and just wishing it would have had more revenge aspect to it, because these bullies are brutal and I did not like them, and I was hoping, like, you know, F it, like, let this killer kill them, despite them, you know, not being brutal bullies, but, you know, they're very cruel and very rude. And very, like, it comes off very realistic. It's not the over the top, like, torture kind of bullying that we see in, like, It, I guess you could say, where they're, like, using knives and carving words. Like, I know those things happen, but it's, like, very rare and stuff. Or well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's very rare, but it's not the kind of bullying that, like, happens every day though at schools, versus this one feels very natural and normal style bullying, despite it being grotesque though. But I guess, like, yeah, my one actual complaint within the movie is, I guess, like, kind of the Stockholm syndrome kind of taking effect with this girl. Like, I know, yeah, it's her first time kind of receiving affection. She's got, like, this, I forget if it's Norma Bates or Martha Bates or something. Norman Bates' mother, basically, where, like, her mother's kind of, like, crazy, cruel, doesn't show any affection. Her dad's polite, but her dad doesn't, like, defend her. Her brother is just, you know, he's a little brother, so he's a sibling jerk, kind of. So, you know, like, I guess they throw in, like, it's her first sign of affection. It's her first sign of, like, a crush and someone showing gentleness towards her. So, of course, like, it kind of leads to this, like, you know, puberty moment for her and her developing, like, raging hormones and kind of infatuation towards him. But, like, I was like, but he, you know, she knows what this guy's doing and stuff. Like, she doesn't like him, and at the end of the day, like, you know, she's not on his side. But just, like, that was a weird aspect to kind of explore, I feel like, with developing that Stockholm syndrome, I guess.
Weirdly enough, I think that was the part that I liked the most, just because it was so out of left pocket. I felt like honestly, or out of left field, out of pocket, whatever, same thing. I merged the two sayings, but yeah, I felt like that was something that I hadn't seen in a movie. Of course, we see, like, you know, Stockholm syndromes represented in movies, but I just felt like this was going to be that revenge movie, and then it ends up being this weird Stockholm syndrome. But is it still going to be that revenge movie? And then we get something, I guess, not entirely different, but different than both those things. So yeah. I did like that aspect of it. But actually, funny enough, you wanted more revenge in your movie. There's a film available on Shudder called Revenge. You should check it out.
Oh, I saw that movie in theaters with you. Yeah. No, or are you talking to the audience? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you just forgot and stuff, because that was a long time ago. We saw that was, like, I think that was when Shudder just barely started having originals and started putting them in theaters before they had them on their app. Oh man, I hated those days where it'd come out 3 months ahead of time in theaters or on video on demand. Then you had to wait for it to be on Shudder. I know they still kind of do that, but I think they're doing it a little bit less. But I mean, yeah, I guess, like, yeah, I see the thought on why you'd enjoy that and stuff. And, like, yeah, it was just, like, I just thought that was a weird direction. But overall, she's a very strong character and makes her own decision towards the end. And, you know, she makes the right decision, I guess you could say. But I wouldn't have minded if she, you know, would have took a little revenge on the, like, go in a completely horrific direction where she took revenge on these bullies and stuff. Because I know one of them was her ex-friend and stuff, and, like, you know, maybe sparing that person, but, you know, the one who was, like, the ringleader, the mean girl, the Rachel McAdams of the Mean Girls, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it took what I thought it was and kind of twisted it on its head. It was very captivating and kind of an interesting movie that wasn't necessarily something I'd seen before. And I just appreciated that it was based, on an original short film. They developed it in a feature, but I don't feel like it ever felt like it was a short film.
Right. Yeah. What also I really liked the gritty sweatiness of this movie because it's hot as hell right now. It's July and I'm dying up here in LA. You're dying down there in San Diego. And it just kind of captivated, like, completely different movie. I think it's an Australian film, The Loved Ones, but it kind of captured that, like, overall high school hormonal brutalness and just sweaty grossness where you just feel like you need to take a shower after the movie. And that's how I feel right now after this episode. I'm going to shower, so I guess that'll close this week's episode. Like, a great way to help support the show is by renting it through our Amazon affiliate link and coming back here letting us know what you thought about the movie.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And if you can't get enough of us here on YouTube, be sure to catch all our social media links down below. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our own Letterboxd accounts. Also catch our new show, Screen Scuffle, new episodes every month. But that'll conclude it for this week's episode. Tune in next week for brand new, fresh releases.